Hello everybody. In today's video we're going to check out and compare the two similar but very awesome tools that a lot of people have been using recently, which is Flowise and LangFlow. I will show you both of them and we'll go through some of the ways that we can install and get things running. So let's just run through the setup of both of them very quick, and then we'll compare some of the features and see where we can go from there. So hopefully stick around because we'll check out both of them. And just a quick preview, here is what Flowise looks like, and here's what LangFlow looks like, and let's get through it. So starting with Flowise, the one that I think I'm more familiar with. In order to get it installed, I use render. Okay, so we go to render, and of course, as my previous video has already described, is when we go to render, we start a new web service. We select, we connect ourselves first of all to GitHub here, and here's my GitHub, the test savant, and we connect to GitHub, and then we connect here, for example, Flowise. We give ourselves a name that we want to, and then here for runtime, we select node, go down here, and the only thing that we add is yarn install. Yarn install. Don't forget that. Okay, and everything else stays the same. And you can check that out actually in the repository itself. It will show you that the build commands will be yarn install, yarn build, and yarn start. And that's where we include them. We select the starter as opposed to the free, which will erase itself every 15 minutes if you don't use it. Scroll down here and create web service. It's going to run for a couple of minutes, and then is going to create something that looks like this here, which is our Flowise link to an actual website that allows us to play around with Flowise and create flows and then chat and basically create the API that we can then include in our code. So that's how we install Flowise. You can also do it locally, but I was having some issues with connecting into language models after installing it locally, and this was the better version. And then in order to install LangFlow, in my case, LangFlow over here, I was having issues installing in render because the runtime is in Python, and for some reason I was having issues. And if you guys, anybody knows, like if we're going to LangFlow and we take a look at the logs, when I run a deploy the latest commit, it gives me so it'll give me an error, and you guys can check it out. It might be that's because I'm using an older Python version, but the build fails because it's not able to find the matching distribution for LangFlow. And so my settings, if you want to see, are over here, and that's using pip install LangFlow and then Python and LangFlow. And you can get all this from the actual LangFlow repository. So on GitHub, you go to this link, GitHub log space -AI LangFlow. You clone or fork the repository into your own account. Let's check it out. And this is LangFlow. So I'm sorry, this is LangFlow. Get the names confused. And so you can see the instructions to pip install, and this is how you get this working locally. I was attempting to do so on render, couldn't get it to work, but I did get it to work locally. And locally we got it to go in the actual VS Code terminal. So what I do is, I'll start from scratch, is that what I do is I create a virtual environment, right? So but before that, what we run is we run the git clone command for LangFlow. So if we were to go to the LangFlow, and in this case, if when I fork over to my account, I can then go to code, and let's do that. My repos. So we're gonna go to LangFlow, and in LangFlow we go to code. Okay, stand by. Okay, go to code, go to local. We get this link here. We copy, go back into VS, do git clone. There's our link. It's going to download. After download, we change directory CD into LangFlow. Okay, once we're in LangFlow, we're going to run command python-m venv virtual environment, and then we're going to call that virtual environment LangFlow. You can call it anything you want, but that's the command structure, is -m python-m virtual environment, and then the name of the virtual environment. That will create it. Then the next thing, what we do, since I already have it created, let's run it. I don't think there's any harm in that. It does that. It doesn't seem like it does very much, but it will do it in the background. Okay, so then we go virtual environment, LangFlow. Okay, so virtual environment, LangFlow. We're now, no, not yet. That actually activates the virtual environment. And then we can do the /langflow scripts activate. Okay, and now take a look. You can see that we changed the way that the command line looks like. It starts now with LangFlow, and now we're in a virtual environment where we're isolated from your regular development environment, and anything we screw up here is only going to be screwed up in this isolated place. And then from here, we do pip install LangFlow, okay, which is something that I've already done. And then we launch LangFlow. Okay, once you hit launch, just do LangFlow. Just type in LangFlow, and you have here, you got UV corn running on local 127, so the loop pack with this port. And then if you click control and then click, boom, you now have LangFlow up and running. Now let's take a look. Let's take a quick look as to what's going on here. Now, first of all, LangFlow. LangFlow, as you will see if you start looking through the documentation, is a GUI for LangChain designed with ReactFlow. What's ReactFlow? Well, ReactFlow is the base application that both Flowise and LangFlow are built on, and you can come down and you can build your own, which is actually an incredible thing to get a real good grip on, because I can see a lot of potential. I can see actually in the future a lot of potential of having whole templates here that we design in LangFlow and Flowise have the separate application or separate way where we can just have a tile for the entire template, right? So create whole templates and then isolate them somehow in an individual tile. And I wouldn't be surprised if either LangFlow or Flowise actually come up with some of this in the very near future. So yes, that LangFlow and Flowise are both built under ReactFlow, okay? And ReactFlow is a pretty awesome thing to check out. And then when you go to LangFlow, so when you start looking at installations and how you can install it, not only can you install it locally like I just showed you, you can also install it in the Google Cloud. It's a little bit more complex simply because Google Cloud Platform it's it's like if you're a drone pilot and you are asked to fly in the NASA space shuttle. I mean, you go into these shells and you're just basically it's just a lot of buttons and a lot of stuff to to know and figure out. All possible, all awesome stuff to learn. Just not right now for this session. So we're gonna get the heck out of there. But what I wanted to show you guys is, let's leave, is that we can also deploy Gina AI Cloud. So that's another option. Okay, and Gina AI Cloud is actually pretty interesting. There's LangChain apps on production with Gina and Fast API. So you can LangChain serve under Gina AI is actually a way for us to launch LangChain template-based applications into production. And so super cool, very powerful. Check this out as well. And now Gina itself, if you take a look, is a really awesome streamlined AI and machine learning product delivery. So we create prototypes, we wrap them in a service, and then we deploy those services to the cloud. I think it uses Amazon. I think it's AWS in the background, but this is all open source and also very, very interesting. Got the Colab notebooks here, show you how to do all the stuff, all the code samples. Very cool, very nerdy, definitely worth checking out. So LangFlow, Flowise. Who's the winner? Well, let's see what's going on. So when we start out in the initial application, as you can see, we start out in Flowise, we start out in this menu where we got the chat flows, we got the marketplace, and we got the API keys in order for us to play around with all of these things. You can open, close, and you can come in here and change everything to dark mode. After dark mode, we can also have a load database and export database functionality here. In LangFlow, slightly differently, as we come in, we see this as the very first thing. Now, it's pretty cool. We also have the ability to turn into dark, and in dark you have both an ability to, like, I think I like this better in certain ways, and I like it worse in other ways, because you can see certain things better and certain things worse. So we start out with a completely new tab. So unlike Flowise, where we actually go into the flow itself, into the template, after selecting the template, right? So we either pick one from the marketplace here, which is pre-built ones, or we pick the ones that we've already worked with and already saved. So if we pick the one that will talk with any website here, it looks kind of like that. And here, what we have to do is we would have to import, and then we either import from local files that we saved earlier or these examples over here. Now we'll go through them real quick. They actually have some pretty cool examples that are a little bit different. If we want to compare the two, let's go in here with the marketplace. So check it out. AutoGPT, Baby AGI, ChatGPT plugin, conversational retrieval, metadata filter load. So these are the examples in Flowise, and here are the examples in LangFlow. And you can see some interesting things that are kind of differences. The PAL math tool here, multiple vector stores. That one was a neat one we'll look into. As you can see, it's a fairly intricate one. Not too complex, but it allows us to separate into several local vector stores. So that's the difference between Flowise and LangFlow on that case. And you see how every time we pick, a new tab gets created, and we can create new tabs up on here, which I kind of like. That's pretty neat, an easy way to navigate. Also, what I do like is this components bar. Unlike in Flowise, if we were to go and open up our tab. So in Flowise, in order to get to the component bar, we have this bar here, and we have to push plus minus, and it also goes away after we pick something and drag it in here. It goes away and it forces me to have to go in and start clicking again. So I don't really like that part. And in LangFlow, all of the components are very easily accessible here from the sidebar. Now in the sidebar, you can see we have pretty much the same components. And let's take a look at some of the differences that we can see. So we have agents, chains, chat models, document loaders, embeddings, LLMs, memory prompts, text splitters, tools, and vector stores. Pretty much almost exactly the same thing. Agents, chains, loaders, embeddings, LLMs, memories, prompts, text splitter, toolkits, tools. So it's a little bit of a difference there. Utilities, that's we got that as well. Vector stores, and then there's this wrappers. And the wrappers has a text request wrapper, which I'm not 100% sure how to apply, but yeah, you can see it kind of lightweight wrapper around a request library. But interesting. So let's also dive in a little bit deeper into the actual tiles. All right. Well, let's continue. Apologies. Let's continue on here with this menu. If we were to take a look at some of the differences, if we're, let's say, for example, agents, right? If we go into agents, the agents have pretty much similar thing. We got CSV agent, JSON, SQL, vector store, router, zero shot, and initialize agent. And here we have it more specified as AutoGPT, Baby AGI, conversational, uses React Framework to decide what actions to take, and MRKL agent for LLM. So a little bit different, right? So a little bit different. You can see how these agents are let's take a look. These are more wrapped already, like AutoGPT and Baby AGI. That's a pretty much complete package when it comes to these agents. And here, if we have a conversational agent, it lets you to have allowed tools, language models, and memory. And is there any equivalent here? Vector store. No, it doesn't look like it would be here. So interesting. Let's go on. The chains. Let's see how the chains are different. Let's pop this open. See what I mean, like every time about needing to do this. So chains, we got a conversational conversation chain, conversational retrieval QA chain. So this is basically a one shot, you know, like what's in there, give me a summary. And this one is a question answer where it grabs your response or the response from the AI to your original query and wraps it up into the next query. LLM chain, retrieval QA chain, SQL database chain, and the vector DB chain. So in this one, conversation chain, LLM checker chain, math chain. Let's take a look at what the checker chain is. As you can see, the interface is fairly similar. The only difference is that this is the maximum zoom out on LangFlow, where Flowise allows us to zoom out really, really far. So I guess in theory, creating these huge canvases in LangFlow, not so much, which you can see actually when we start to look at like importing examples, and I think a multiple store one, because we're right now at maximum zoom out, there's this need to have to overlay tiles over one another, so it doesn't look as good. Okay, so let's see, let's carry on. We got loaders. So this is what I see that LangFlow has a wider selection and somewhat of a different selection, more I'd say more specific and more in-depth selection. Like certainly when it comes to loaders, they got a lot of loaders here. All right, if you go to Flowise and close up the chains, they call yeah, document loaders. So the document loaders, right here, we only have what do we got, like 5, 8, 9. Yeah, we got web scraper. I mean, we got the important ones, is like the web scraper, the Excel files, the document, um, Google Docs folder, the entire folder, GitHub, speak to code kind of stuff, JSON, the Notion, the database platform, and just regular PDF text file. But in LangFlow, as you can see, we got a whole bunch of interesting one, including like CSV. There's a college confidential one, not sure where that goes. Facebook chat loader, Gutenberg loader. So interesting. They have the PyPDF loader, so it's the Python, more native Python one. That's cool. I like that. When we get to embeddings, though, so you see here are where we start to notice like differences that are actually in favor of Flowise. Start to open up embeddings, and we have a couple of more options here. We have, outside of OpenAI, like we do in LangFlow, we have the Hugging Face, Cohere, and Azure OpenAI, whereas LangFlow only has the OpenAI embeddings. So, but when it comes to LLM, LangFlow has those 4, and those 4, Hugging Face, Llama, and OpenAI. And here, Flowise has Hugging Face, OpenAI, Cohere, and Azure. So same as the embeddings. Memory, we got just like a buffer memory. And memory, we have a couple of actual memories here. Conversation buffer memory, conversation KGM memory. Not sure what that is. Knowledge graph memory for storing conversation. Interesting. We'll check that out. By the way, just to look at the actual tile difference here, if we were to look at the tiles in Flowise, so what we have is a duplicate. We got a way to delete this whole thing, and like for example the chat OpenAI one, right? We have the ability to put in the API key here, select our models, and our model here is actually pretty good model selection. GPT, look, it's all of them. GPT-4, the Lock 314 version, and the 32K version as well, which is really cool because yeah, it's pretty much similar to here. We have the 3.5 GPT-4 and GPT-4 32K. So overall, you have just a bit more here. Not really anything significant, like this one and this one isn't really needed. So it's really just the Turbo GPT-4 and the 432K. So those are the same. The tiles themselves, I kind of like the tiles here. So there's this this question, or this exclamation point, where it'll actually give you the code that is being referenced. So if we were to look at some of the examples here, so let's see, getting started basic chatbot. You take a look at and hover over the green check mark here, it actually gives you the full code, or at least the full syntax of all of the different variables that can be converted here. So it's actually really neat. And then when so yeah, when you need to actually dive in a little bit more into the technical things, or the technical side of things, this is a very neat feature here that doesn't exist in Flowise. So the tiles themselves are a little bit more intuitive, and they have a bit more of an explanation here. Then you can click on the settings icon there, and then we can do verbose, output key, input key. So interesting options here that do not exist in Flowise. However, in Flowise, in certain cases, let's see if we chat OpenAI here, chat OpenAI. We can come in here and click on additional parameters and specify more things in Flowise and in LangFlow. It looks like most of that is already here. And then when we go to the settings, that's when we can kind of start to maybe play around with the keyword arguments here. So very interesting. I think we're probably going to just wrap it up there. Again, just open these things up for you. Take a look at and see what it looks like in Flowise. Flowise does have a good amount of tools here that can be used. And it does have vector stores. That's another difference that you can see is that Chroma, these are the local vector stores. This is a straight up in memory. It has Pinecone and Supabase and Weaviate. Now in LangFlow, if we were to go down to vector stores, all we would see would be the Chroma local vector store. So still, a good option, but not as good as Pinecone. In my case, I like Pinecone a lot and use it a lot. So that would be really awesome addition. Tools, got a big selection of tools here. There's actually another toolkit as well. So OpenAI toolkit for interacting with OpenAI API. It looks like with LangFlow, there are a lot more possibilities, which is very interesting. So I'm going to play around more with that. And if you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. And let me know what you think and what you'd like to see a bit more when it comes to LangFlow or Flowise. And just to finish off, I'll pop open these other tabs here so you guys can take a look, pause in the video, and see if you want to see anything. Then the last one is this wrapper. If anybody can let me know what this means. If you know what exactly the function of this one is, leave a comment. That would be awesome. So text request wrapper. Then after we can save the stuff, I like to save export as is a little bit better here in LangFlow. Getting started, basic chatbot. We can get the name, the description, save with my API keys, download flow. So the interface is a little bit cleaner and nicer. And then there is the actual same thing like the LangFlow chat. And it's a pretty cool little chatbot here. That's kind of neat. And then the best part, of course, is the code. So just similar to Flowise here, we can grab the code. But Flowise, as you see, has more options when it comes to embedding the website or uses API. Okay, we can embed, we can use Python, JavaScript, curl. We can add the authorization as well. So basically the key. Which I will now have to delete because you internet boys love to rack that up. There's this other option here for show input config and actually kind of detail what is going to be going in this model. And then a little bit more detail as far as the actual what's being submitted. So the code part is a little bit more detailed, a little bit more intuitive, but how it differs here is that we have the Python API, but also a tab for Python code. So you can then use this this diagram that you set up as a LangFlow, just to import LangFlow from JSON and reference this particular template if you export the template and if the template is sitting somewhere in a local file or a local drive for it to be using. So check it out, play around with it. Let me know what you guys like to see. I'm going to make probably a bit more videos about how to actually use some of this new functionality here and see what we can do that we couldn't do with Flowise earlier. But I hope this was informative, and if it was, check out some of the other videos where I go into more detail on how to install Flowise and how to play around with these tiles. So thanks very much, and I appreciate you all.